The crane is making contact. Get back, just in case. Examine the carvings here, use brushes.
Unearthed from the mud, a massive metallic saucer sits surrounded by heavy excavation crews and hazmat teams. At a glance, the scene carries the weight of the greatest archaeological discovery in human history. An AI generator produced these panels in seconds. This is the reality of zero-effort photorealism, a finished, high-fidelity image that required no physical location and no actual camera. For over a century, our brains have been hardwired to trust photographic evidence. If there's a picture, it happened. But that deep-rooted psychological trust is now colliding with widely available generative tools that anyone can access from their phone. To survive the modern internet, we can no longer rely on our gut reactions. We have to learn how to identify the digital fingerprints left behind by algorithms, using this specific viral hoax as our training ground. This image successfully tricks the eye because it exploits familiar, gritty visual tropes. It relies on our immediate recognition of a muddy construction site and the visual language of a high-stakes hazard zone. Consider how real-world heavy excavation actually looks. Mud clings to the machinery's treads in clumps, and daylight scatters predictably across the uneven, wet ground. A second baseline shows actual hazardous material teams. You can see realistic textures of the blue protective suits, bulky respirators, and natural human proportions. Contrast those realities with our hoax. This massive red arrow is a psychological mechanism designed strictly to farm clicks. It's a loud, artificial signal meant to trigger curiosity before the logical brain can start asking questions. The initial power of this image comes from its mastery of the clickbait economy. It uses familiar framing to bypass our skepticism, forcing an engagement before we have time to process the flaws in the frame. Shifting to the top panel, looking closely at the heavy machinery reveals where physical logic fails. The excavator's arm is physically impossible. The steel bucket doesn't grip the object. It merges directly with the saucer's hull, as if they are a single liquid mass. Now, look past the central object toward the distant human figures standing on the dirt ridge. Generative models consistently fail to render anatomy at a distance. These are mangled shapes with missing limbs, and yellow hard hats fuse directly into their skulls. At this microscopic level, the AI reveals itself as a painter that understands surface texture, but has no comprehension of gravity, depth, or the basic rules of biology. Moving to the bottom panel, we examine the surface details of this second silver saucer. The hull is covered in what look like intricate alien carvings, but trying to find a pattern reveals they are actually nonsensical, repetitive gibberish with no linguistic structure. This is an AI hallucination. The algorithm creates the appearance of complexity to satisfy the prompt, but there is no underlying logic or meaning behind the shapes it generates. Look at the dark figures on the right. They have no facial definition, and where their hands meet the ship, there is a total lack of realistic shadows or reflections on the polished hull. AI excels at creating a facade of complexity, but that illusion breaks down the moment you look for intentionality or specific purpose in the details. Viewed as a whole, the image is a map of algorithmic errors. Every element that initially looked like evidence of a discovery is actually evidence of a software flaw. However, this technology is advancing exponentially. The specific visual flaws we see here, like melting hands and broken physics, will soon be corrected. Even when the technology achieves visual perfection, the economic incentive will remain the same: engineering curiosity and outrage for profit. This forces a change in how we process information. We must completely separate the concept of photorealism from the concept of truth. As visual flaws disappear, we have to move our primary line of defense. Scrutinizing pixels for errors is no longer enough. Instead, we must prioritize the verification of an image's source and the logic of the context surrounding it. In an era where seeing is no longer believing, true digital literacy means recognizing the mechanics of the clickbait economy. Understanding how the trick works allows you to safely keep scrolling the next time an image tries to tell you how to feel.